Our story takes place back in the day. Not your day and not your father's day, but in the day of the Ambersons. Major Amberson had made a fortune when everyone else was losing fortunes, and that is when their magnificence began. Magnificence, like the shine on a newly minted coin, or the unblemished face of young Lucy Morgan, waxed and waned with the seasons, but reached its uppermost in the days when every family owned a Newfoundland dog. In those days, everybody knew everybody else, and those few whom one did not know were certainly not worth getting to know. It was a time when a man could be 20 minutes late to an urgent gathering, and nothing would be thought of it. For in these ages there was no great hurry. Only the speed of the automobile and the aeroplane set the pace for human existence, and we could easily keep up with it. Perhaps we were all a little happier then, but the past shines brighter every day, so what do we really know? Certainly such is not the case for poor Eugene Morgan. In his younger days he attempted to serenade the handsome and available Isabel Amberson, but was in such a rush to keep up with the automobiles and aeroplanes that he forgot the laws of the land and attempted to co-occupy space with his bass viola. Such was the displeasure of Isabel's that she promptly spurned Eugene Morgan. He deserved it. Instead, Isabel married a man she could best be described as indifferent to. Wilbur Minifer won her hand with money.
She'll have the worst lot of kids you ever did see.
How do you know?
Look at her. She couldn't love Wilbur. No. She'll pass it all on to her kids, and she'll ruin them for it.
Our friendly neighborhood commentator was incorrect in one regard only. Isabel had but a single child.
But you can bet he'll be spoiled enough for the lot of them.
A fair enough assumption. Isabel Amberson's child became known as George Amberson Minifer.
There's that horrible Georgie Minifer on town again.
He really is a little monster.
Riff raff. What, may I ask, is that?
It's a teleporter, sir.
Does it work?
Nope, not yet.
I request that you reconsider the yet. The world doesn't use such filth as a teleporter.
Maybe. Maybe not. Either way, I intend to keep working on it.
You intend to keep working on this? Do you know what that is?
Yes, sir. That there be Amberson Edition.
And you want to build such filth in the presence of Amberson Edition?
Yes, sir.
How could he do this to you? Someday that kid'll get his comeuppance.
Yeah, I'll just have to sell the scraps to that Eugene Morgan fella.
It was indeed a wonder that this neighbor was able to build in front of the Amberson Edition. Its presence was palpable, and one could feel the powers that stand behind its mighty presence. And it was at a dance that the first cracks in Mount Olympus appeared. George Amberson fell in love. If his humanity was ever in question by virtue of his actions, never again let it be so. George Amberson was human in the most important ways that any human can be.
Well, what did you say your name was?
Morgan.
Huh. Funny name.
Everyone's name always is.
I didn't mean it was really funny.
Ta-da!
I mean, that's just one of my crowd's bits of horsing around at college. We always say funny name, even when it's not. I guess we can get pretty fresh sometimes, but I mean, what's the rest of your name?
Lucy.
Is Lucy a funny name too?
No, Lucy is very much alright.
Well, thanks for letting my name be Lucy.
I don't think I said anything to be insulted for. I mean, I don't think I got too fresh.
No, indeed.
Well, then what did you...
I don't. And I don't mind you being such a lofty person at all. I find it ever so intriguing.
Isabel, it's been a long time.
I know. My father's an inventor.
What a fine career for a man, isn't it? Lawyers, bankers, politicians. What do they get out of life? What do they know about the real things? What do they ever get?
He was so earnest that she was surprised and impressed. Evidently, he had deep-seated ambitions, for he seemed to speak with actual emotion of these despised things which were so far beneath his planning for the future. She spoke in a lowered voice.
Well, what do you want to be?
A yachtsman?
Remember that time you smashed your bass viola in front of my house?
I was drunk that night.
You were a little drunk every night.
I still am.
But tragedy was to strike. The foundations of love proved a fertile enough one for disaster. Lucy convinced her family to move into a house across from the Amberson estate in order to never be far from George. Her family contained only one person besides Lucy, Eugene Morgan, her father. Some things never fade away. Some things do, and the mixtures of blank space and content create a cloud of nothing meaning and someday nothings entirely. But those things that never fade away are to be cherished. Isabel promised herself that she would not do any cherishing for the good of her husband. Wilbur Minifer, husband to Isabel Amberson and father to George Amberson Minifer, died from a lung disease. Now the cherishing was no longer forbidden.
Isn't it time that we stop being almost engaged and become fully engaged? I have thought of nothing else for months.
What profession do you intend to go into?
You know my answer.
My father's an inventor. He has just perfected the teleporter.
Is that what this is about? Your father would disapprove of me, wouldn't he? He wants me in some sort of business or occupation. Well, I'll be damned if I'll live my life by the standards of another man.
Then my answer is...
Please, can we be engaged?
Almost.
George was not particularly happy this evening. He had found no success with Lucy. He still remembered the death of his father, and he saw that his mother was getting perhaps a little too comfy with that Eugene Morgan.
Why, hello, Georgie. Are you here to see Lucy?
Never call upon my mother's company again, Morgan. Never again! It was for the best, Mother. Really.
I believe you.
Thus, from this action, a chain reaction began. Eugene Morgan had been spurned again. This time, he did not deserve it. A year later, Isabel Amberson died. The money of the Amberson estate had disappeared almost instantly with the death of Isabel Amberson. George Amberson became destitute, a mighty fall from which all he could keep was his pride, and it saddened him to have to part with it now, but times were hard. He went to ask for help from Eugene Morgan.
I've come to apply for a job, Mr. Morgan.
My daughter said the only job fit for you was to be a yachtsman.
Well, times are tough, and, well, the Ambersons aren't so magnificent.
I suppose you know what it is we build here?
You're working teleporters if what Lucy told me is true.
Well, her words are near true. These teleporters are working. Working better than anyone could ever have imagined. I once dreamed of traveling faster, smoother, further. Now my old dreams are tiny ambitions compared to the ultimate triumph. No longer is travel limited to space. We've expanded the business, see? The world is not quite so small anymore, for I've brought it all closer together.
Sir, I'm not sure I understand.
And you never will, knave! Untold wisdom has infected my body forever! Time is everywhere, visible, like a telescope. I see through the waves of that dimension and understand every facet of its intricate design. My teleporters travel through time, space, the imagination, and the seventh warp star of Galbadia! Now I go to get my reward and give you yours! Go on. My darling Isabel, I have surmounted every barrier that has stood between us.
Something had happened. A thing which, years ago, had been the eagerest hope of many, many good citizens of the town. They had thought of it, longed for it, hoping acutely that they might live to see the day when it would come to pass. And now it had happened at last. George Amberson Minifer had got his comeuppance. He had got it 3 times filled and running over. George Minifer had got his comeuppance, but the people who had so longed for it were not there to see it, and they never knew it. Those who were still living had forgotten all about it, and all about him.
Lucy?
Yes?
Are you... Where am I?
You're home. Your new home, with me. Both our families are gone. All we have is each other.
How can you say that? There's still so much between us. Our parents have ran off with each other. I still don't intend to go into a profession. Your father's teleporter will make the world into a different place, which we may not have a place in.
That's not true. What's between us is love. We can make a place in this new world.
And so ends the last shred of the magnificence of the Ambersons.